Hello, this video is on resource groups and brought to you by Nelson Systems Incorporated. I will be using an Eventide Nextlog DX model recorder with the software version 2024.3. Now, what is a resource group? Okay, you can see here on the left side of my screen that we've got our resources as well as, a couple options here to choose from. Now, if you have no resource groups configured, all you will see is a long list of all of the resources that the recorder is currently recording. If you create a resource group and configure it with a search rule, it will then appear here as a searchable option for the users that you have selected. And it's just a nice way to, take your long resource list and chunk it out into little pieces for which you can configure different rules. So in order to create resource groups, we are going to go to the Configuration Manager, navigate to Recording, and Resource Groups. If you haven't configured any previously, this left side will contain nothing except for all resources. So you'll want to configure a new group, give it a name, and then it will appear here on the left. To add resources to the group, that being specific, channels that you want to make rules for, you'll select named resources, and I only recommend selecting named resources. You'll select the channels that you want to add, and you'll click this arrow in order to transfer them into the group that you have created. Now let's take a look at what some of these rules are and what they can do for you. First, the search rules. For any resource group that you've created, if you create a search rule and then select users within that search rule, they will see that resource group appear under Resources in MediaWorks as a searchable option. So it's a nice way to say, if you've got hundreds of radio talk groups and things like that and you want to chunk it out into something that's more manageable and searchable, that's a good way to do it. Your permission rules. If you only want to give certain users access to, certain channels or talk groups, this is where you would configure that. You would create a resource, create a permission rule, and then add the users to that permission rule. Archive rules are useful when it comes to sending different channels to different archives. So let's say that you have police and fire that, share dispatch. And you want to send all fire-related audio to one drive and send all police-related audio to a separate drive. You would configure that here within the archive rules. Now, it is important to note that an archive rule can only control one archive. So if you create a new rule for the same archive, it will supersede the old rule. Your playback rules are useful if you have, like say, video and audio, right? And you want to play them back together in MediaWorks just by clicking on them. You can see a good example of that here in our positional audio. So we've got these linked together, and if you click on an audio record, it will automatically play the associated video record as well. So that's a good example of a playback rule in use. And then your record rules, you have the option to set a control channel, so any of the channels that you've selected for the resource group. And then the moment that control channel begins recording, all of the other channels within that resource group will record as well. And that about covers it. This has been a overview of resource groups and how to configure them. Thank you for watching.